What's going on, everybody? CFC DP here with a new Sunday edition of the show. It's going to be a little bit more of a kind of a podcast, kind of a cozy, kind of one topic type of show. Hope to have some guests on in the future for this, but it was kind of just an idea that I had today to kind of discuss some of the bigger, broader topics that we had. We may make this a podcast, but it'll be a relatively short one today, just to kind of get some thoughts out. We learned quite a bit over the weekend about Chelsea and how they're kind of moving as a team. We see for the most part that it is a lot of similarities to last year, and that's not necessarily the greatest thing. But we do notice that the qualities in our new signings, especially just from the Everton game, are something that will really benefit the squad, and it kind of makes me feel like Tuchel is kind of putting that imprint on the squad. So that's kind of the theme of this podcast is how Chelsea are progressing with their kind of rebuild, in what type of players they're looking for, kind of reiterating while there's no sporting director, Tuchel is kind of pushing the bill here. So that's what we'll be talking about. I'm really excited to bring you this show, and let's get it started. So, kind of on this broader subject of Chelsea's direction as a football club, it's kind of been a pull and push type of thing that we've seen from fans, that one section of the fans say, well, we rate Tuchel. We think he's our manager. We're ready to build a Guardiola, Klopp type program around him. And then there's others that say, they look at how our offense works, and they look at kind of the unattractive brand of football that Chelsea kind of tend to play, and they say, well, is this our Klopp or Guardiola? Because we look at those two teams and we kind of see that they have evolved into these offensive, it's almost like a symphony. There's the strings and the drums and the horns, and they all kind of mold together into one fluid, beautiful work of art, if you will. And then we look at Chelsea, and it seems that, there's obviously games like Norwich or Southampton where everything seems to be running pretty well. It seems like it's always a little bit difficult for Chelsea to kind of create those outputs and those chances and make sure that everybody's in sync and in rhythm. And I think that when you look at how these three teams, Chelsea, Liverpool, and City, are generated, Klopp and Guardiola have built their teams. They have built their players to suit their system and their style. And if you rate Tuchel, you understand that his system and his style revolve around a really strong spine, from defense to midfield to an attacking midfielder. So you look at Thiago Silva and Koulibaly, and you see those two players, and you say those are two really strong prongs to the spine of Chelsea. And then you look further up the pitch in the midfield. And this is one of the points of why I got to this discussion. And the spine of the midfield is not there. Jorginho is not a defensive midfielder that you can use to win the Premier League now. He can put in a performance. He puts a lot of pressure on the box-to-box midfielder, Kante or Kovacic. He also is not very athletic. He is a smart footballer. He knows how to play passes well. He knows how to space adequately. But too often, he is limited by his own lack of athleticism and kind of limited technical ability on the ball. And now I'm not slighting him because this is just how he is, but I look at Frankie de Jong, Chelsea's kind of main target now, that if a main midfield target, and I say, this is the type of midfielder that Chelsea need to be employing in the next 5 to 10 years. They need to be transforming into this. I mean, you look at the great young midfields now, and you say, what does Real Madrid have? They have a succession plan in place, but they are going to be having 3 midfielders in Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Valverde that are not one-trick ponies. You look at Conte, he's a regista. Or Jorginho, he's a regista. You look at Conte, he's really good at attacking the ball. Kovacic, a really good dribbler. But do we have any of those midfielders that are good at everything? That can play defense and offense and kind of float in the midfield in a 6 to 8 range. Almost, if there was a 7, it would be a 7. I don't think that player exists at Chelsea. And when you say, well, look who our midfield targets were in the past, Tchouaméni, Declan Rice, those are 2 players that have a lot of great defensive traits, but they don't necessarily have one super thing that they're great at. And I think the sum of all of these little things that these players like De Jong, Tchouaméni, and Rice are good at is more attractive than a player that, man, Jorginho, he's a regista, but he can't really defend. He can't really be physical in the build-up play. There's problems. So you're looking now for a hyper-athletic, technically gifted, defensively sound, passing, attacking option. Now, there's not many of those in the world. And that's why you see such a high price going for Tchouaméni. You'll see for De Jong. Eventually with Jude Bellingham. The versatility that these players bring to the table, it's something that's so unique and so necessary for modern systems to operate nowadays. You have to have it. It's imperative. There's a reason why you say Kevin De Bruyne is the best midfielder in the Premier League, and that's because he can do all of those things extremely well, and you pay top dollar for that. Why would you go for a player that has 2 tools and might cost you $20 million, but you can get a 5-tooler for $180 million? When those players are available to get and you can go ahead and grab them, you have to. You have to. Or they're going to go to another club and you're going to have a lot of issues. Why do you think Chelsea went after Chuka Mweka? Because while he hasn't been proven it yet, and this is why his price tag is lower, kind of like a Camavinga type, not type of player, but a Camavinga type of price range. That's because he has all of those tools. That's why Tuchel said, I'm going to look at you, and I know that you haven't played, but we're not going to send you on loan. You're going to work here. And why did he want that? Read the scouting reports. He plays 6, 8, 10. That's the midfield profile you want. You want somebody that is not going to do great for you up front, but kill you in the back. You need somebody that can play both sides of the ball and has multiple talents. And there's not many of them around, and I will stress that to you enough. There is not that many midfielders around like that. But that's why Tuchel went after him. That's why Tuchel is trying to get Frankie de Jong. That's why we went so hard for Tchouaméni. That's why we'll eventually go hard for Rice. Those are the profile of midfielders you want. And they fit perfectly in Tuchel's system. You can't get caught on necessarily, is it a pivot? Is he a lone DM? Yes, they have those preferences during the games, but if you need your DM to step up and play passing angles and move the ball for you and be a threat offensively, you need to have that. I mean, that's why Rodri's so good for City, because he is really, really good with the ball. You can't get away with just being a good defender nowadays. You have to bring something else to the table. You have to. If you don't, you're a bit far behind in my estimation. But as I've stressed on this, and I will stress it more and more, there are not many of them out there. So you better believe that Chelsea are going to go after Frankie de Jong like there's no tomorrow, because at a player at his age, that's a guy that you could have in the midfield for the next 8 years, and he's only getting better. So that's kind of where I'm at. I back the manager because I think his vision of football and his style is not the style that we see currently with Chelsea, because it's just a bunch of misfit toys that are talented enough because of each player's individual quality to get you far enough, to get you top 4, to win tournament football. I mean, there's nobody, I don't think there's anybody better in the Premier League, especially at tournament football, than Thomas Tuchel. He knows how to set up against a team. He knows to find weaknesses, and he knows to beat you on the break. He said, if I have to sit back a whole tournament, that's what I'll do, if that's what it takes to win. But you look at what's going to win the Premier League, and that's having a group of 4 to 5 midfielders that can handle different roles and are able to be versatile enough to offer you qualities at different points of the pitch. Now, people are dead set on Chelsea. They need a striker. They need it. I don't think it's necessarily as important as you think, because I watch Chelsea on a week in and week out basis, and I say, where are the opportunities for an Erling Haaland in our system? You don't see it. Kai Havertz is playing left wing. Look at the heat map against Everton. Raheem Sterling is the center forward. When Romelu Lukaku was with the squad last year, with all of his flaws that he has, and don't get me wrong, he has a bunch of them, it just didn't work. And there's a lot of reasons why. Unwillingness to press hard, unwillingness to work hard, essentially. Defenders and midfielders alike wouldn't find him on runs. The system wasn't tailored for him. So you need quality, and you need a finishing presence from somebody that doesn't have to sit in the middle of the park. That's why I say Christopher Nkunku is the man. And people are nervous because of Timo Werner, which rightfully so. Rightfully so. But look at Timo Werner's numbers at Chelsea. He averaged about he played like a little over 80 games, I think it was. He has about half a goal or assist in each one of those games. It's not as bad as you think. What the difference is between Timo and Christopher Nkunku is Nkunku's technical ability is through the roof compared to Timo's. And you'll say, watch Timo and Nkunku's highlights, and you'll say a lot of their goals are in transition. I'll give that to you. A lot of the goals are in transition. But you will see that Nkunku has several more goals that require technical ability, a first touch, something that Timo Werner cannot do at Chelsea. He could not. And a part of it was stature, physicality, and Nkunku can offer you that. I mean, you're talking about a French international here that is going to be a part of the front line with Kylian Mbappe for the next 10 years. You're going to be able to get him for a £63 million or euro your release clause next year. You got to go for him because he can play left forward, he can play right forward, he can play center forward, he can press, he can move, he can finish. If we learn anything from Tuchel, it's that he wants to play a bit more of a direct skill set football. That's why he brought in Cucurella. Cucurella is you watch him in the first game at Everton, you haven't seen that sort of speed, quick decision making, and directness from a Chelsea side in I don't know how long. He is moving the ball quickly. He's not second-guessing himself. He is going at everything 100%. And I have a problem with Chelsea when they don't do that, which is quite often. Chelsea, they like to take their time, be considerate about their passes, which is fine. And that leads to a very strong defensive record. And I think Chelsea are one of the better defensive teams in all of the world, to be honest with you. However, it affects them on offense to a point where they are so pragmatic and so slow, if you will, in their build-up and decision-making that it's hard for Chelsea to break teams down because they could park up and they're ready to go. So if Chelsea don't get the first goal, they're in trouble. So you see Cucurella comes in, smart, quick decision-maker. Fofana, same way. De Jong will be the same way. Quick movements, quick, let's go. He rates the Barcelona methodology of let's move quickly here. If we see an opening, let's go for it. You'll watch Tuchel on the sidelines quite often, and you'll see him talk about moving faster. And Frank Lampard talked about it too, to be honest. Let's give him credit. He talked about moving quickly. Let's move quickly. Let's get from point A to point B because there's a space now that's opening, and if we beat them there before they can rotate, that screws the next defender. So I think I got off of the point of this YouTube video, and I kind of went in a different way of recruitment. But I think Chelsea, as much as they need a direct overhaul of their team, of kind of the misfit toys, if you will. And I think that's going to take more than 1 year to do. I think we are seeing signings that are playing into the hands of what Thomas Tuchel wants. And you can look at each of them and you could say, we're seeing a clear pattern of who they're signing, why they're signing them, and how they're going to fit in 2 or 3 years down the road. Because I am pretty certain, and I hear this in media all the time, and I don't get it. And they say, is Tuchel going to be here next year or whatever? I think, as far as I know, they're trying to build a project around him. The talk with the owners is, I want to build a project like City and Liverpool. That's why they're successful. Tuchel won the Champions League with this group, so it's been done before. He's got them top 4. He's won 2 other trophies, Club World Cup, Super Cup. He's made it to 2 FA Cups, made it to a League Cup. Very close to beating Real Madrid last year. All while he's not been playing with his players. He had to go through one of the most unique situations in all of sports with the sanctions on Roman Abramovich, the Super League, COVID. There has been so much, and I don't necessarily like to give passes to coaches because you have a job. However, I will give Thomas Tuchel a pass. Now, this isn't an indefinite pass. You definitely want to see, as he gets his signings, more progress and more direct football. more goals, more excitement a little bit. But you can't say that he hasn't given you results. When he didn't give you results, both of his wingbacks were hurt. Critical to his system. Critical. 2 wingbacks were hurt, so you replaced them with an older player in Azpilicueta, who isn't nearly in the same ballpark as Reece James. And then you had Alonso, who doesn't play defense, doesn't want to be at Chelsea, and he still got top 4 and got you to 2 finals. I just think that's an important antidote to think about when you talk about Thomas Tuchel and if you rate him or not, because I hear it all the time when I watch programs and listen to TalkSport or whatever. Is Tuchel the guy? I'm not so sure. He has pressure under him. I don't think so. Obviously, it's a results-driven business, but he's going to finish no worse than 5th this year. He'll no worse be in quarterfinals for FA Cup, Carabao Cup. More than likely will get past the round of 16 in the Champions League. And that's without his players for the most part. It's tough to consider. It's a lot to consider. I'd like to thank you for listening to me talk about kind of where I think Chelsea's kind of heading in a philosophical standpoint. I think it's important to kind of, as we get into the season, to do this every once in a while, to really kind of say, all right, well, yes, we want to win the 2022-23 season and we want to be very successful, but as much as this ownership group has preached things are going to be different, they've been correct in that this is a long process. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. Well, this is definitely not going to be built in a day, but how can it be maintained as we get to that point to still hold the allure so that we can get the big pieces that we need to build this, You want to have a project, and you want to have a good project for these younger players to get through, and I think Chelsea's building that. They're getting Sterling, Koulibaly, perhaps De Jong, Fofana, Cucurella. These are all guys that are going to be important. They're going to be here for a while. I mean, Cucurella signed a 6-year contract. Chukwuemeka signed a 6-year contract. Koulibaly signed, I think, 5-year contract. They're going to be here for a while. And if this doesn't show a commitment to Thomas Tuchel, I just think you need to look a little bit at the facts. But anyways, I just want to thank you for tuning in to this video. A little bit longer of a one. But everyone needs to vent once in a while. So I will be coming out with a little bit more of a transfer type show here in the next couple of days. Chelsea are expected to go back in for Wesley Fofana probably in the next 24 hours. They are willing to meet that £85 million mark for Fofana. They really rate him. They want him. Chelsea's also waiting for De Jong to make sure that he is bought in on the project before coming with an official bid. The bid that they will be bringing to Barcelona will get accepted. It is just a matter of the player accepting that his move to London probably is inevitable, because Barcelona just won't be able to offer him the wages that he wants to maintain. So we'll see how that all breaks down. Like I said, I'll be back with a kind of more well-rounded transfer update with you, as well as a Tottenham match preview. I was on the True Blue show earlier today with a couple of really smart guys that I communicate with on Twitter as a part of our Twitter group. I will put the link for that in this description when I get that, so go ahead and check out. That was a kind of a longer discussion, so but kind of we match reviewed Everton, but some more philosophical topics as well. So feel free to follow me on Twitter at CFCDP1. You'll see me there ramping and rambling about Chelsea, and then please go ahead, like, subscribe, comment to the channel. All of that is much appreciated. And if there's anything that you'd like me to discuss, any topics you'd like to discuss, my DMs are always open on Twitter, so feel free to shoot out and reach out to me. Thank you very much. Have a great start to your week. It is a big one coming up. a lot going on, and we will talk to you very soon.